Pushing for trans rights, we meet the 26-year-old taking the government to court. China ousts its defense minister 2 months since he disappeared from the public eye.
It's been 78 years since one of the most important days in Taiwan's history. I've come here to find out why only a few people are marking the occasion.
Plus,
the Japan Mobility Show is set to begin. We take a look at what is special this time.
welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao with 30 minutes of the latest. A transgender dancer in Taiwan is taking the government to court over its refusal to allow her to change her gender marker on her identification documents without surgery nor a mental health assessment. Irene Lin has more.
26-year-old Vivi is never more confident than when she's dancing. The transgender woman says it allows her to be herself. It's a freedom she doesn't have in everyday life. So, she's suing Taiwan's government to let her change her gender marker without undergoing gender-affirming surgery.
很多的时候都要出示这些证件去证明自己的身份，但是上面的性别栏位跟我本身的样子又不符合，所以就有很多这些困扰。
Taiwan has a reputation as a LGBTQ-friendly nation. In 2019, it became the first country in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage. But trans rights lag behind. This is the administrative order implemented in 2008. It requires people who want to change gender on official documents to provide 2 psychiatric assessments and undergo gender reassignment surgery. But LGBTQ rights activists want this to change.
I think gender identity and sexual orientation are basic human rights and do not need to be certified by a doctor. The logic is just like the freedom to marry is a basic human right. And when same-sex couples want to get married, they do not need to submit a medical certificate of their sexual orientation.
In 2021, a judge ruled a transgender plaintiff could change her gender marker without surgery, but the ruling did not set a legal precedent. Activists hope bringing more cases to court and winning them will put pressure on the government to remove the requirement for surgery, which officials maintain is there for the protection of the public. Vivi believes there is still a lot Taiwan society needs to learn about its trans population, and she's using social media to encourage acceptance.
我比其他跨性别者的状态、心理状态是更可以去面对这些舆论，所以我希望可以透过我站出来，去帮跨性别族群去可能争取到这个权益。
Vivi is still waiting for her day in court. She knows that, like the decades-long push for marriage equality here, some rights have to be fought for and won one step at a time. Patrick Chen, Rick Lauert, and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Hong Kong's leader John Lee has announced patriotic education programs in his annual policy address.
我哋會開展愛國主義教育，增強市民對國家同埋中華優秀傳統文化嘅認同，自覺維護國家統一同埋民族團結，將愛國主義教育納入國民教育體系。
The announcement reflects Beijing's tightening grip over the territory. Li also said he would enact national security laws by the end of 2024 to counter what he described as external forces meddling in Hong Kong's affairs. Li also laid out plans to bolster the local economy through real estate and infrastructure projects. China has removed its defense minister after he disappeared for nearly 2 months. General Li Shangfu is the second high-profile minister to be ousted from his position this year. Foreign Minister Qin Gang was also removed in July. China has not said why the defense minister was let go nor named a replacement. Li, who was appointed in March, hasn't been seen in public since August, sparking speculation about his position. For more on why China continues to shake up its leadership, our reporter Jaime Okan spoke to Brian Hart from the China Power Project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
Do we know why China fired its defense minister? I don't think we know exactly why yet. I mean, I think that there's a lot of suspicion and perhaps some likelihood that it was related to corruption. You know, we also saw reporting from China that there was specifically investigations ongoing into the equipment development department and kind of related areas of the PLA where Li Shangfu came from. And specifically the investigations, I believe, were connected to the time when he was head of that. And so that's part of the reason why there's suspicion that it's around corruption. And we know that corruption has been, you know, the downfall of a lot of other former PLA leaders. So it's certainly not out of the question. I think still waiting to learn exactly more what happened, but I think that's the likeliest guess for now.
In terms of an operational capacity, is this going to affect China's military, also known as the PLA?
You know, I don't think on an operational level this has much of a specific impact. You know, the defense minister's role in China is really more of a bureaucratic one, and largely one of its most important functions is to be kind of the face of the PLA abroad. So meeting with counterparts abroad, which, you know, for China on the foreign policy front, disappearing its defense minister with no real reason for weeks is part of the reason I think other countries have been concerned about this. But in terms of operations, I don't see this as having a major impact, you know, in the immediate term. I do think, though, more broadly, I think it potentially has some significance in terms of creating doubt in the PLA's leadership, you know, among the rank and file, but also, you know, some concern within the party leadership about, you know, the loyalty and kind of propriety of their top officials.
Looking forward, what can we expect from the U.S. and Taiwan in terms of engaging with China now that this defense minister has been fired?
I don't think there's any specific shift here. I think the biggest thing that this has is, you know, potentially there's an upside here if you think about U.S.-China military to military cooperation, which is that Li Shangfu had been sanctioned by the U.S. government, and so that created a big obstacle to military to military talks, which have really suffered a lot, especially since China canceled and suspended some of those military to military areas of dialogue last year after Speaker Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. So, you know, the fact that Li Shangfu had been sanctioned was adding to that difficulty in engaging on the military to military talks. And so maybe there's an opportunity here as we get a new defense minister to maybe, you know, kind of have a little bit of a fresh start on that front, but we'll see.
That was Brian Hart from the China Power Project speaking to our reporter Jaime Okan. October 25th is Retrocession Day in Taiwan. If you've never heard of it, you're probably not the only one. But it used to be one of the country's most important dates. Ed Moon investigates what has become Taiwan's forgotten holiday.
A small gathering to remember a big day in Taiwan's history. October 25th is Retrocession Day, marking the end of Japanese colonial rule and the beginning of the Republic of China government on Taiwan. It was, for many years, a day of national celebration, but not anymore. Walking around Taiwan, you'd be forgiven for thinking there was nothing remarkable about the day at all. The reason is closely linked with Taiwan's contested history. Imperial Japan forced China's Qing dynasty to give up Taiwan at the end of the 19th century. During the Second World War, the Allies stated their intention to return Taiwan to China, then led by the Republic of China government. On October 25, 1945, the ROC accepted Japan's surrender. The ROC and Japan officially signed a peace treaty in 1952, but that didn't explicitly transfer Taiwan's sovereignty. And that means today, there are some who think the ROC never legally controlled Taiwan.
台湾是在日军战争的时候是根据国际的条约交割给日本的。那台澎社在这段时间并没有再有第二份的交割文书出现，所以我们认为台湾的主权归属并非在中华民国的手上。
For many supporters of Taiwan independence in particular, the ROC was a foreign government, and its rule prevented self-determination for Taiwanese people. And what's more, it was a government that ruled with an iron fist under the Chinese nationalist Kuomintang. For decades, Taiwan was under martial law. It wasn't until that ended in the late 1980s that people could begin to question whether Retrocession Day was such a good thing for Taiwan. That debate saw the national holiday scrapped when the independence-leaning Democratic Progressive Party won the presidency for the first time in the year 2000. That is far from a universal view among Taiwanese, however. 96-year-old Zheng Dongsheng was part of the Taiwan Volunteer Corps, a group of soldiers who fought for the Chinese army against the Japanese in World War II. He remembers Retrocession Day with pride.
我是一直认为台湾应该是光复，应该要光复的。对，而且我们台湾勇队的主旨就是保卫祖国，收复台湾，就这8个字。
And on the day back in 1945, he helped to welcome Chinese forces to Taiwan.
那个时候我做过就是街头演讲了，贴标语，做壁报我。
But voices like Zheng's are fading, as younger generations increasingly identify as solely Taiwanese rather than Chinese. Combined with Retrocession Day's contested history, that means such an important moment in the creation of modern Taiwan can pass by, almost unnoticed. The history of Retrocession Day lies at the very heart of Taiwan's political divide and its modern international isolation. And while very few people here now mark the day, it continues to shape Taiwan's future. John Su, Ed Moon, and Sam Hui in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Scientists say the world is entering uncharted territory in the climate crisis in a new State of the Climate report. After record-breaking heat in 2023, the report, authored by 12 prominent climatologists, warns global warming is a systemic existential threat to humanity and called for global economy, policy, and individual behavior to be transformed to reduce disastrous impacts. The report also says a recent cut in sulfur emissions from shipping may have caused temperature spikes this year. To find out more, reporter Sally Jensen spoke to one of the report's authors, Leon Simons, a climate researcher at the Club of Rome.
Your new report outlines the climate disasters we're seeing and calls them a systemic existential threat. But isn't this like some of the UN reports? What's new here?
So this is not a UN report. It's a report published by a group of scientists to declare a climate emergency. And this is the update to show what the current status of this climate emergency is. It's very different. As the report shows, there's a lot of extreme records being broken in the past months. And now also the surface air temperatures are starting to peak, and they reach record high temperatures. So what we see is, in a way, it's an acceleration of the rate of warming. So the world is warming faster and faster.
In addition to saying that human-caused global heating is the main cause, there are also other natural and unnatural factors. So how sure can we be that the new extremes are really down to human activity?
Of course, it will take time to do the science and to say exactly what causes what to what extent. But if you just look at it from a heat perspective, there's a lot of more heat in the system because of what we do, because of our actions. And that's like almost 100% certain. So we've been hiding the warming effect from greenhouse gases, especially in the northern hemisphere, mid-latitudes where most of us live, by emitting sulfur.
And sulfur, which was used in shipping fuel, when it's in the air, it actually causes global cooling. So should we just go back to emitting sulfur?
These sulfur particles have negative health effects and negative environmental effects, causing acid rain. If you say we should keep doing that, then you say we should keep hiding the real effect of global warming. And it's maybe it might be cynical, but by reducing these emissions, maybe humanity will get a shock it needs to really start reducing the greenhouse gas emissions and to start taking the long-term risks more seriously.
Have you and the other climate experts who wrote the study seen any pushback for your findings and your work?
Sometimes they say, okay, you're like deniers because you say you focus on particles that cool us down, and you must be in favor of geoengineering and intentionally cooling everything down. Of course, there's always people who like to deny what's happening. That's either from denying that greenhouse gases are causing warming, or that reducing aerosols and sulfur increases warming. People don't want to believe that we could be faced with very rapid warming. And I think I see it also with colleagues that when we're discussing it, the natural response is not wanting to know it because the implications will be very bad. But in the end, we need to know because we need to prepare for the risks.
That was Sally Inson talking to co-author of the State of the Climate Report, Leon Simons. Coming up after the break.
Many of Taiwan's traditional industries are in danger of dying out. But today we've come to southern Taiwan to find out what has kept this craft from the Qing dynasty alive and well.
For more stories from Taiwan, around the world, and in front of a World War II era aircraft carrier, please download the TaiwanPlus app. It's bigger than it looks.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world. Charted by the freest country in Asia.
5, 4, 3, 2.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Ian Kavat. Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC.
Public buses to be electric by 2030. A mission that begins with listening.
And telling the stories of Taiwan.
In Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Drawing insight from original thinkers.
And sharing it with the world. TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Big tech companies report upbeat third quarter results, signaling a promising turnaround from last year. Google's parent company Alphabet posted an 11% bump in quarterly sales to reach over $76 billion. Meanwhile, Microsoft's year-on-year sales jumped 13% to $56.5 billion. Snapchat parent Snap saw a return to sales growth after 2 consecutive quarters of decline, going up 5% to nearly $1.2 billion. But in the stock market, Alphabet saw a drop in shares, while Microsoft saw a rise, suggesting investors are betting on the Windows maker's edge in cloud computing and investments in AI. The Japan Mobility Show is opening on Thursday after a 4-year hiatus. Sandy Chi is in Tokyo with a look at what is now a very different auto show.
After a 4-year absence, what used to be known as the Tokyo Motor Show will once again take center stage here in Japan's capital. But when the doors open to the public, visitors will find some big changes. The event has been given a makeover and is now known as the Japan Mobility Show. Organizers say it also has a new mission, offering a place to envision the future. Unlike its predecessor, this year's 10-day event goes beyond cars, featuring pretty much everything that can move people from point A to point B. A record 475 companies from all over the world are taking part. And organizers are also throwing in an immersive theater experience and interactive tours to showcase the event's 4 themes: life, food, emergency, and play.
これがメインの展示になります。このロボットは、4人乗れて、4足歩行で歩く世界初のロボットです。これを作ったのは面白い乗り物を作りたいと思って作りました。なぜなら私たちはジェットコースターであったりとか遊戯機械を作っている会社なので、アミューズメント性を持った面白いものを作りたかったので作りました。
With the show's focus on sustainability, efficiency, and accessibility, companies are using this opportunity to reveal concept vehicles, including ones that use AI technology and even ones that may be able to fly.
So we wanted to create a small and compact air mobility that can be used everyday life, because now we have to move by car or by trains. This is a new mode of transportation, and I think people now understand that, so yeah, this is exciting.
Electric vehicles are a big focus of this year's event, with some of the biggest names in the industry revealing their next generation EVs. Alone EVs won't get people going through these entrances. Enthusiasm for auto shows has waned over the recent years. Organizers hope this revamp and the show's new remit will mobilize its visitors and help people move more effectively into the future. Kama Xu and Sandy Chi in Tokyo for TaiwanPlus.
Famous Taiwanese director Hou Hsiao-hsien is reportedly retiring from the movie industry. Jeremy Olivier explains.
Leaving behind a cinematic legacy, one of Taiwan's most renowned film directors is leaving the movie business. Hou Hsiao-hsien was the creative force behind internationally acclaimed films like A City of Sadness and Flowers of Shanghai, which critics have hailed as among the best movies of all time. U.S. media outlet IndieWire broke the news of Hou's retirement, citing a source close to the director. It said Hou, now 76, is battling dementia, confirming rumors that his health has been declining for years. Hou's son has confirmed he has Alzheimer's. In 2018, the auteur helped lead a project involving 5 virtual reality short films. Even then, he admitted having trouble keeping up with the new technology.
拍电影拍了一辈子，所以这个我刚接触这个的时候，我傻了。
Born in China's Guangdong province in 1947, Hou and his family moved to Taiwan the following year. In the 1980s, he became one of the leading figures in Taiwan's new wave of cinema. That movement also included filmmaker Edward Yang and helped put Taiwanese cinema on the world map. Many of the movies from this period touched on taboo social and political topics.
They wanted to do something differently. They were really mindful of, the films that they wanted to make should be in tune with international cinema. But these films were also assertively Taiwanese.
Hou's most recent film, The Assassin, won him the Best Director award at the 2015 Cannes Film Festival. He had recently started scouting locations for a new movie, but his retirement means The Assassin will be his final act. Joseph Wu and Jeremy Olivier for TaiwanPlus.
Many of Taiwan's traditional crafts are fading into history, but the art of 3D embroidery is stronger than ever. Today, in part 3 of our series, Where's the Mayor Taking Us?, Andrew Ryan heads to the southern city of Tainan to find out why.
The streets of Tainan are anything but quiet. There are religious festivals almost every day of the year. After all, Tainan has a higher density of temples than anywhere else in Taiwan. And behind the religious fervor, there's a whole industry of artisans, silently creating the items that keep these traditions alive.
在国家的艺术奖里面，我们叫做人间国宝，台南的人数是最多的，所以说这个让我们走出去都觉得我们台南人的骄傲。不管是刺绣啦、绣庄啦、雕刻啦、做神明的衣服啊，都有很多老艺师。 他都非常的专注，获得了国家的肯定。
Artisans moved to Tainan to create the embroidery industry back in the Qing dynasty. Their handiwork was so delicate that it found favor with the emperor. Today you can still find this artwork in Buddhist and Taoist temples and ceremonies, on altar cloths, tapestries, and even the clothing worn by deities. The founder of this embroidery shop was given the title Preserver of National Intangible Cultural Assets. Today, I've come to learn the art of 3D embroidery.
从这里面钻过去。
哦，
对，然后
非常厚。
对，你看它这个棉花都铺得很高。
这样对吗？
好，可以。
You have to have really good eyesight in order to be able to do this. This is incredible. She's not wearing glasses. She can see everything. I can't see anything. This piece we're working on is a 5-meter-long tapestry. It's so heavy that it takes 2 adults to carry it during religious processions. And the labor that goes into one of these is stunning. It takes 8 people working full-time for 3 months to complete, at a cost of over $30,000 US. Many of Taiwan's traditional industries are in danger of dying out, but this shop is thriving. There are 15 artisans working here. Now, you may think that demand would be low considering the exorbitant cost and the fact that you only use these tapestries once or twice a year. But if you order now, there's a 4-year wait.
很多人可能认为我们要转型，其实我们不会转型，只是说我们希望把刺绣的生命能够去更加丰富它，而不是认为说它就是单单只能拜拜用。
In recent years, the traditional embroidery of Tainan has found a place in the realm of mortals. No longer confined to temples, it can be seen in art collections and even on the catwalks of international fashion shows. All thanks to the dedication and creativity of the artisans who make it. Scott Huang, Justin Wu, Peachy Zhuang, and Andrew Ryan for TaiwanPlus. Up ahead in Part 4, we head out in search of another Qing Dynasty tradition, the nation's only existing salt fields. Plus, a pit stop at one of the most Instagrammable places in Tainan.
That was part 3 of Andrew's trip to Tainan in our series, Where's the Mayor Taking Us? We'll have a new episode for you every day this week. That's it for this edition of Taiwan Plus News. If you like what you saw, consider downloading the Taiwan Plus app or visiting our website. Before we go, take a look at the oldest ship in the Italian Navy, now docked in Brazil on its second around-the-world voyage. I'm Leslie Liao, signing off. Take care.